I will say I have an opening I really like quite a bit.
Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. The force is strong with you for clicking on this one, my dear friends, and today we have a very exciting teaser for Ahsoka Season 2. Now that Andor has come to an end, Ahsoka is the last remaining live-action Disney Plus Star Wars show confirmed. It's not coming until late 2026, but today we have a very exciting update. Rory McCann, the new Baylan Skoll replacing the late Ray Stevenson, has finally broken his silence on taking on the role of the villain for Ahsoka's second season. Looking at the slate of upcoming Star Wars content, of all the characters in the Mandoverse, there are very few that interest me more than Baylan and Shin. These two alone are driving my hype for the second season, and so any small updates, any tidbits, any breadcrumbs, I am here for them. In a brand new interview with comicbook.com, Rory McCann admits it was the right decision to not cut Baylan's story short. After Ray Stevenson passed away, Dave Filoni had to make a very tough choice. Do we kill the character, do we stop this story, or do we plow ahead and recast? I'm glad they chose the latter, and so does Rory. I think he was a fantastic choice. There were some photos shown at Celebration and some concept art, but we won't know for certain until there is at least a teaser trailer out. Until we see him in action, in character, in costume, speaking and acting like Baylan, and just holding the same space Ray Stevenson did. At the end of the day though, there will never be another Ray. As a fan of Baylan, I'm not expecting an identical performance. They're different actors with different styles. I'm sure Rory's going to get as close as he can to his late friend, but I don't think it'd be right to pit the two actors against each other. You know, naturally fans will notice any continuity problems, any jarring differences, any moments in the second season where it feels like he's a different character to season 1, but we shouldn't go in expecting an identical performance. And I guess that's the tricky thing with recasts. Recently we spoke about Bail Organa. Luckily Jimmy Smits is still with us, but despite Benjamin Bratt doing a fantastic job, it was still jarring for a lot of fans. And that will to an extent be the same with Baylan. And even though Rory has a very similar physical stature to Ray, can mimic the same poses, the same lightsaber fighting style, he's not Ray, and he's going to bring his own version to the table. This is just something we have to get over. The good news is that Rory was a very good friend of Ray, and he wants to give everything to his performance. He went on to say this: "I hope the fans embrace it, and I'll do my best. I'm just starting now, so I'm just trying to be in the right zone for doing it. It's pretty bloody exciting." And then he says he remembers going to see the original trilogy with his dad, and now he's training with a lightsaber. So it's kind of a fan dream for him. Always nice to hear when these actors are Star Wars fans themselves. But just something I want to point out, one thing that really screamed at me when I read this, he's only just started filming his scenes. Now Ahsoka Season 2's been in development for a few weeks at this point. That means Baylan is probably not in the first 2 episodes, and that makes sense. Big spoiler warning if you missed the video where I spoke about this, but there's an Ezra Bridger fight scene in the opening episode. I think we begin in the known galaxy with Ezra, Hera, and the rest of the New Republic. We also know there's been a bit of a time jump. Ezra is back to his Rebels look, clean shaven and short hair. The scruffy, rugged, bearded, long-haired look from Peridea is long gone. And I also think we're going to catch up with Ahsoka and Sabine on Peridea, but maybe they haven't seen Baylan and Shin in a very long time. So maybe they're talking about things that have been happening on Peridea. We know there's going to be some supernatural force-related things that do concern Mortis. So maybe the show takes time to build up to Baylan's first Season 2 appearance.
Can't allow you to interfere.
And the great thing about Rory McCann's appearance, especially if you look at his more scruffy look in Game of Thrones, is he can portray a Baylan that's a bit more wild. A lot of time has passed since Thrawn left. Things have changed, survival mode has kicked in, and we also now know one of his very first appearances in Season 2 is a lightsaber fight. This could be with Ahsoka and Sabine, but it might also be with Shin, his former apprentice, although I do suspect they'll save that for later in the show. It might just be killing a creature for survival. They have to eat something. And aside from the Noti, I'm sure we are yet to be acquainted with most of the creatures out there. The second galaxy is a mystery. How does it relate to the Mortis gods, the Ones? Is Peridea the birthplace of the Father, the Son, and the Daughter? Is there some kind of connection to the world between worlds? because Baylan is seeking the beginning. Is he going to do some kind of ritual like the Sith alchemy that Palpatine did to try and get inside in Star Wars Rebels? Does Baylan want supreme power over the universe, over the will of the Force itself? Now, speaking of lightsaber training, Rory McCann said this: Game of Thrones really helped with that. Same kind of moves, same blocking. Doesn't have the same sexy sound though. Oh my god, lightsabers are amazing. They're lighter, but having said that, the throne swords were stunt swords, and you've got to pretend that they're 3 times heavier than they are. But it's all pretend really, all of these universes, but it's all very exciting. And you know guys, Rory McCann is so lovable, he's really humble, and I'm convinced he's about to give us a killer performance. If I had to make a prediction though, I think Dave Filoni may have changed some of the details in the script for season 2. Rey's untimely passing may have changed the overall trajectory of the character. Maybe originally Dave Filoni wanted to keep him around for later in the timeline, maybe for his movie, but because they had to recast, because things have changed, they may have decided to wrap his story up in this season. It's so cruel that we lost Ray. He arguably gave us one of the best performances of any villain in the entire Disney Star Wars era. Stevenson's portrayal of Baylan was nothing short of mesmerizing. With every measured word, with every haunted glance, he breathed life into a warrior torn between conviction and longing. A fallen Jedi who walked the edge of darkness with dignity and depth. He gave Baylan a soul, his strength, his wisdom, and even his sorrow, his grey morality, an ambiguous path, not quite fully turning to the dark, but rejecting the philosophy of the fallen Republic Jedi he once served. In a Star Wars galaxy full of heroes and villains, so often ones who are black and white, Filoni crafted a character who was something rarer. A man chasing a purpose beyond the binary good and evil, haunted not by power, but by prophecy, seeking an end to the cycle of Republic and Empire, Jedi and Sith. In his eyes, in his mannerisms, in his tired words, he was able to convey the weight of the character's past. And in doing so, we have a character who is as mythic as he is human. And that heaviness is something Rory McCann has to carry, as he now portrays Baylan. The prospect of what Ahsoka Season 2 can give us is so enthralling. I recently did a Star Wars Rebels Season 4 rewatch, and it occurred to me, Dave Filoni has never really fully answered our questions about the mysteries of Mortis, the full purpose of the Ones, but at Star Wars Celebration he promised, we are about to find out. In other Star Wars updates, my dear friends, Sam Witwer has given us our first official details for the upcoming animated show, Maul Shadow Lord. We finally get insight to what perspective this series is giving us. It's Maul's response and confusion to Palpatine's empire, which he knew about long ago. He worked out the purpose of Anakin Skywalker and the Sith Grand Plan, having been the apprentice to Darth Sidious. But like I said, Maul is confused, because Maul expected a Sith empire and not a galactic one. According to Witwer speaking to Katie Sackhoff, quote, "It truly is a show about bad guys versus worse guys, and our bad guys are still bad guys. He's just misunderstood, but not as bad as Vader or Sidious." A very interesting perspective. Very curious to see what they do with it. But share your thoughts on everything we spoke about in the comments down below, my dear friends. Are you excited for more Baylan Skoll in Season 2? Let me know.